Is the gentleman prepared to close from Ohio?
Madam Speaker, we have another speaker on the way, but just let me say this. I'm reading from a headline here. This group, Ruth sent us. This group hinted at targeting Supreme Court Justice Coney Barrett's children in church. Let me just read the headline here. Group gave details of Justice Coney Barrett's routine, her children's school, and family's spiritual life. So in plain English, this group was saying where Justice Coney Barrett goes each day, where her kids go to school, and where their family goes to church. They gave those details, and last week, the Democrats said no one is in danger. After an assassination attempt on Ms. Barrett's colleague, Justice Kavanaugh, and they said not to worry. Everything's fine. We don't need to pass this legislation. After the Senate had done it unanimously. That's the position of the Democrats in this body. And that's why we're saying, why did it take so long? 6 weeks ago was when the draft leak happened, and the protests started at justices' homes almost immediately after the leak of that draft, that unprecedented leak of that draft opinion. And they've been doing it now for weeks and weeks and weeks. Here's the email from this organization, this Ruth sent us organization. Here's one of the messages. If you're in the D.C. metro area, join us. Our protest at Barrett's home. Move the needle to this coverage. Falls Church is a people of praise stronghold. She sends her 7 kids to a people of praise school. That she said on the board of directors she attends church daily, as if that's bad to go to church daily. I think that's a good thing. But this is what they're saying. This group, given the details where her kids go to school, where they go to church, and her daily routine, and the Democrats said, nothing to worry about. That's our concern. So thank goodness this bill is here. Madam Chair, we reserve our time.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, continue to reserve.
I'm going to respond to that because what he just said was a lie.
Gentlemen,
the fact
recognized.
That he's saying that Democrats think there's nothing wrong, there's no danger to Supreme Court justices is a lie. Why? Because we're the majority party, and look, we just put this bill up and we're about to vote on it. We clearly care about Supreme Court justices, but we also care about the families and employees of the Supreme Court. And that is what we're talking about today. Because again, I just want to remind you, the Republicans are misleading you. Supreme Court justices right now have law enforcement protection details. They are protected by law enforcement. This bill has to do with the families of Supreme Court justices. I support protecting them. I also support protecting the employees and their families of the Supreme Court. And that is the dispute. The Democrats want to also protect the employees and their families who are getting threats from right-wing activists, intimidation from far right. And you want to talk about intimidation? I'll tell you what intimidation is. It is Trump supporters assaulting the Capitol on January 6th, brutalizing 140 police officers. That is intimidation. I reserve my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Ohio.
And Madam Speaker, we condemned what took place on January 6th. It would have been nice if Democrats would have done the same thing in the summer of 2020 or passed this legislation 6 weeks ago, a month ago when the Senate passed it. Let me just recite a few things here that have been said by our colleagues on the other side. Former Attorney General Eric Holder said in 2018, at a campaign event in Georgia, to, quote, kick Republicans. No. When they go low, we kick them. That's what this new Democratic Party is about. It sure is. It sure is. It's all about intimidation. Intimidating the court, intimidating parents who have the nerve to show up at school board meetings, setting up a disinformation governance board to intimidate free speech rights of all Americans. That's what the new Democratic Party is about, and we've seen it time and time again. In the summer of 2018, we saw one of our colleagues from California, Democrat members, said, let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from the Trump cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, out in a crowd, you create a crowd and you push back on them and you tell them, think about this. It's a member of Congress saying this to a cabinet member. You tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere. A cabinet member of the administration not welcome in their own darn country? That's what a member of Congress said on the Democrat side. We had another member of Congress on the Democrat side say this: there needs to be, quote, unrest on the streets, calling for unrest on the streets while there was unrest on the streets in the summer of 2020. That's why this legislation is so darn important, and why we cannot figure out, and the gentleman just said something that wasn't accurate. The Speaker of the House said last week, no one's in danger. No one's in danger. I just read you what they're posting about Justice Coney Barrett and her family and where they go to church and where her 7 kids go to school. And of course, this is in the context of everything they've done to intimidate the court and an assassination attempt on another justice, Justice Kavanaugh. I yield as much time as he may consume to the gentleman from North Carolina.
Gentleman's recognized from North Carolina.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the gentleman from Ohio. I've missed part of the debate, most of the debate on the floor. Mr. Jordan just made reference to that item that bowls me over. You wonder, after you've been in Washington for a little while, whether anything will surprise you. But yes, that tweet by the pro-abortion group Ruth sent us that identified Justice Barrett's church and identified the school that her children attend and encouraged protesters to, quote, voice your anger, close quote, by demonstrating there, is a new low. Not just the identification of justices' home addresses, which I never thought we'd see, not just the not just crowds materializing there, which I had never thought we'd see, not just the appearance of an assassin at the home of a justice, which we have never seen, and yet the response is, what about January 6th? And as the gentleman from Ohio made the point, I have never encountered any Republican who declined to condemn the violence and rioting at the Capitol that day. I've never found one. I've never heard one. And yet I never hear condemnation of such conduct as I've described from Democrats. I might be missing it. I'm not hearing it now. I'm hearing about what about January 6th. I condemn the rioting and the violence at the Capitol on January 6th. I condemn the Democrat leader of the Senate standing in front of the Supreme Court to say to two specific justices that you have released the whirlwind, you will suffer the result. I don't remember exactly the word. And then what I do remember, the phrase that sticks in my mind, you won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. I never hear condemnation for that. I don't know why. I do think I know why this bill had to be delayed from last week when we were here and could have passed it. And that is because you want to protect the leaker. And that implies that although this has been pending for a month and a half, and the nation doesn't know who the leaker was, somebody knows who the leaker was. And that's who you want to protect. Amazing as that is, unprecedented as that is, we certainly ought to protect this or pass this legislation and protect the justices of the United States Supreme Court from assassins. Assassins responding to the advocacy, the unprecedented advocacy on the left. And with that, I yield back.